Good Vach, everybody. Shavua Tov. A good week to everybody. I have some allergies. Hay fever season. Shouldn't get any worse, God willing. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Good talk, everybody. We share Tanya today with Dam in Indonesia, Rabbi in Morocco. All right. Yes, welcome back. Michael is with us in Virginia, Boker Tov. Eric in Norway, good afternoon. And also good afternoon in Budapest. Davida and Liba in New York. Good morning. Cindy is with us in Florida. Irma in New Jersey, welcome. Heather in Connecticut. Clem in Brisbane, Australia. June also in Australia. Good evening. Deborah's in Brazil. Diane in London actually, somewhere in the States, I think now, I recall. Susanna in Miami, Shavua Tov. Aryeh also in Miami, welcome. TJ in Australia, good evening. And in Salisbury, North Carolina, Leslie, welcome. Tim in Texas is with us. And Adenia, I probably pronounced that wrong, but welcome. Batya and David in Montreal. Andrew in Springfield, New Jersey, welcome. Aby in New Jersey. And Samitai, I think I pronounced it wrong. Betty, welcome. And we have Batya, Adam, Chaya, Margot, Celeste, Sina, Tim, Eliana, Elizabeth, Selena, Deborah, Kintud. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Welcome in. Welcome. Included also is Yenta Telebenta, Koi, Penelope, Anis, and some others that I can't make out. I handle. Okay, we conclude, finally, the 20th letter, in which we had a very profound Kabbalistic journey to understand the uniqueness of physical creation as opposed to spiritual. The bottom line is the original thought is the last action. The beginning is wedged in the end. And where is that? In the physical earth, as opposed to even other elements of the physical universe, which is air, fire, and water. Earth is the lowest, heaviest, most physical. And it is there where we have the quality or the metaphor for something from nothing, which is only something that ultimately God can do. Because ultimately, earth is still something, and the seed is still something. But relatively speaking, it isn't. So we explained also the paradox of this idea that the infinite light of God is revealed on the lowest level. The light of the Kav, we called Or Chayzer, has the rebound effect. And we understand that by, as the sun's rays are hottest on Earth as opposed to in higher levels of the atmosphere, because of the rebound effect. So that is a metaphor for us to understand that the lowest level is rooted in the highest. Again, that is the paradox. Now, with this, we can understand something else. It's quite phenomenal when you think about it. And that is that in creation, just like we have four elements of creation that make up everything, we also have four divisions in creation: inanimate, vegetation, animal, and human. Now, the amazing thing is, when you think about it, now we're all, we know that that's the way of the world. But hey, think about it if you're for a moment, like, it makes sense that a human being, who is the apex of all of creation, should be nourished, should get vitality from the lowest element of inorganic, like water, or vegetation. We're greater than it, yet we're nourished by it. It gives us life. It gives us even intelligence. How could that be if we're greater than it? How could it be that, as the Talmud says, that a child doesn't know how to call out father or mother until it tastes grain? In other words, not only does it nourish us physically, but even in awareness and knowledge, it also gives us, as also likewise as Reb Nachman says to Rava, that when he was asked a very difficult question, and he said he wasn't able to give the answer that he would like to give because he hasn't eaten meat yet, and whatever for him, by eating meat, that gave him a certain energy that he would be able then to actually have greater wisdom. So we see that the food not only nourishes us physically, but it also gives the child to be able to ultimately develop properly, that they can communicate, speak, call up father, mother, Abba, Ima, Tati, Mami, and even to give an adult the brain power, as the Talmud tells us. So how is that possible? Well, shouldn't we be nourished by something greater than us to give us the nourishment? So this is the power of Or Choizer, the returning light, right? That it comes from a higher place, and it comes down to the lowest place. But it being in the lowest place, just as the sun is hottest on the earth because of the reflective nature, so just like as the original thought is in the final act, so the highest levels of the Ein Sof that encircle all the worlds and transcends all of them come down and illuminate in the lowest level. The lowest level being inorganic. And think about it, inorganic, right? Water is something that we all need. We need the vegetable, the vegetation kingdom. Vegetables need, right? All vegetation needs it. Needs water. All of animal kingdom needs it. And vegetation, we'll think about it in a moment. Most of inanimate is absorbed by vegetation. Most of vegetation is absorbed by the animal, and most of the animal is absorbed by human, right? And giving it life, sustaining it. That's the power of the Or Choizer. We find that idea likewise with bringing a sacrifice on the altar, that it brings actual nourishment above. That it brings in a great enjoyment to the divine order of things. A physical animal bring on the altar has it, because again, the lowest thing is rooted in the highest level. It's down here reflects on a lower dimension, a lower level, but it comes from a higher place. So therefore it can bring, that offering can bring a divine pleasure. With this, the Alter Rebbe concludes, now we can understand the sublime worth of practical mitzvahs, commandments that are done in the physical world, with physical objects, with a person's physicality. All right, tefillin that are made from leather from an animal hide, that put on the physical arm. Money, physical money that's given to charity. Right? Shabbos candles that are physical candles that are lit by a physical act. This is the ultimate purpose in the descent of souls into the physical world. As our sages say, Hayoim, today, is just to do it. Just do it. Or, as we sometimes say, just Jew it. What does it mean? What does a Jew do? Do whatever the command is. The physical act of the command. In other words, tomorrow in the times of Mashiach, then it's not about the physical act, it'll be beyond that. We'll have the experience of the connection to God. Today, it's not about the experience. It's not about the spiritual that comes from it. It's about just doing the mitzvah. And that's why it says, and the Alter Rebbe concludes, better 1 hour of repentance and good deeds in this world than all of the life in the world to come, as our sages say in Pirkei Avos. And that concludes the That concludes the 20th letter. Let's unpack this. Some powerful ideas over here. Again, I wager that none of us really think about the fact that, I ate some cereal that was, or some organic, stuff that, some seeds and nuts and other kind of grains, whole grain, that, not only filled me, but gives me vitality. Not only that, but, gave me a capability of being focused as I was hungry before. The coffee that I had, that should give me a focus. So there's something in it that's greater than me that can give something to me that I wouldn't be able to have otherwise. Vitality, life, even a focus and a wisdom that's greater as a result of the food. That's the concept of Or Chayzer. Something that's greater but falls to a lower place. So on a revealed level, it is seemingly, not so valuable, but it's rooted in a higher place, and therefore it has a power in it, latent in it, to give us life. And even in usage of our minds better. To use our ultimate of the human being, which is the mind, to use it in a greater manner. So you would think, well, if I would just God would give me the vitality. I mean, it's God giving the vitality through the physical. So the whole point of this then is, though, to bring out a simple idea that the physical is not just so I can experience the spiritual, which that's what most people understand the physical. Those who are seekers of truth, those are seekers of the connection to God. So you would think that, connection to God. So, God's not physical. So the connection to him must be of a spiritual nature. The truth is, God's not even spiritual. Right? He's we call maybe Ein Sof. You can't say that he's infinite, and what? He can't be expressed in the finite? Exactly where you don't expect him to be, that's where he is. And that's where he wants to be. That's where he is, and that's where we connect to him. So exactly where naturally, intuitively, we would think that that's not where he is exactly. And that's because the physical has a quality of God. Just as God, there's nothing preceded him. So the physical world, there's a sense of it, that there's nothing preceded it. It is. It just is. As opposed to the spiritual, evolves, and we understand that, the spiritual sense is its source. The physical doesn't. It's created something from nothing. So it has the quality of its own somethingness as an end in itself. When in fact, it comes from the highest level, and therefore it's so removed any connection that there's a sense of independence. And it's in the physical, of the physical specifically. And as we see, like in earth, as opposed to air, fire, and water, that are more, fire and water, fire and air for sure, are much more, less physical, shall we say. Water, likewise, ultimately. And as we explained, that in the physical is where we have the metaphor, or the something that is analogous to the creator who creates something from nothing. One can only create something from nothing. You take the seed and put it into the earth, and you get a tree, a fruit-bearing tree from it. So that's pretty awesome. So what comes out of all of this then is that it's not just the physical as a means to connect to God, but it's through the act in the physical, doing the physical act. Today, just do it. Meaning, yes, we understand we have to make the physical in order to have a spiritual connection. No, but it's in the physical act itself. Today, just do it. Right? It's better all of doing 1 hour of a mitzvahs over here than of all the spiritual revelations and connections that we have to God in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden. That's how powerful, and that's the ultimate place, is in the physical right here. So, what does this mean? It means that the doing of a mitzvah in its physical parameters, its physical limitations, is important. So, for example, that the tefillin are between the eyes and not not down here, or not on the side over here, or that now, holiday of Sukkot is coming, we're going to make the blessing a lulav and esrog. So it's in the act of how we do it that's important, as opposed to the feeling that we have from doing it. Most people, they think it's about the feeling that we have, the connectivity that it brings to us. That is not the point. It is in the act itself is the connection, as opposed to the feeling that it brings to us in the act. The feeling is me. The act is godly. The act is godly. And that's what we need to focus in on. Okay, any questions, any comments? have some questions here. Let me see. Or at least I see one question. From Davida, is there a difference then when someone is a carnivore as opposed to a vegetarian? If someone doesn't eat meat because they feel that, it's not right, it's not inappropriate, then that's a bit of a problem, according to what we just said. If someone doesn't eat meat because they feel as a vegetarian, they feel healthier, they feel better, then by all means, right? So it's not a problem to be a vegetarian. That's not at all a problem. The problem is if you're making a thing out of it, that I don't eat meat because you can't be cruel to an animal. Well, no, that's not cruel to an animal. The Torah tells us what cruelty is, and there is a mitzvah in the Torah of not being cruel to animals, but slaughtering an animal, according to Jewish law, is not cruel. And, you fulfill a mitzvah on holidays, Shabbos, by having meat at the table. Now, if you don't like it, right, not for animal's sake, because you just don't like the taste of it, or then, so don't eat it on Shabbos or on holidays. Or if you just, I know people are vegetarian, but comes to Shabbos and holidays, so they'll have a little piece. But to make a thing out of it, that's a bit of a problem, according to what we just learned over here. Right? Davida, when Adam and Eve sinned, was that when they needed to physically eat? No, well, they ate before that. They did eat from the tree. When Mashiach comes, when we need to physically eat. Yes, when Mashiach comes, we're going to physically eat. The world's going to be as it is now. And but the difference is, it won't be a physical experience as much as it'll be a godly experience. Okay. Is the physical act actually getting up and doing something for self, like walking or running, before we take care of the rest of the day? If you're walking because God says in the Torah, take care of your health, and you're doing it for that, so then fine. If you're doing it for your own pleasure, so then it's for you. A mitzvah is God's thing, not our thing. So tefillin is a better example for a Jewish male over 13 of an example of a physical act, or for a woman or a girl to light Shabbos candles Friday, or holiday candles, right? That's a better example than, walking, because people, yes, Torah speaks about, but guarding your health, but it's not a very good example of doing God's command, because most people do it, for their own sake. But when you're putting on tefillin, you're doing that because that's what God wanted. You put a mezuzah on your home, you're doing it because that's what God wants. You're celebrating the holiday. You're making a sukkah and doing lulav and esrog. That's God's thing, right? That we do. We do those actions. So those are better examples for, now someone who isn't Jewish, so then you have the 7 Noahide laws that you have to fulfill. Okay. So Andrew, while doing a mitzvah helps us get closer to God, can we ever truly experience God's manifestation until Mashiach comes? We can have a love, have an awe to some level. We can have that. So we can have something. It's going to be limited, though, as opposed to what it will be in the times of Mashiach. But yeah, we definitely, that we have to work on ourselves for that. That's not, it's easy just to do the act, right? And to be aware of the value of the act that we're doing, right? And sensing that itself is a great achievement. To actually experience the connection in the act, that's going to be that's a lot of, work that we have to work on ourselves to get there. But, Yeah, it is possible for sure. Any questions on Clubhouse?